The content provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended for a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your doctor or other qualified health professionals with any questions you may have regarding your medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. On today's episode, we will be talking about exercising as someone with type 1 diabetes, welcoming Meg Lee, who has her own story about exercising. We're your hosts, Isabella McGee and Sebastian Harris. This is Life on the Level. If you're listening, you probably have or know someone with type 1 diabetes. We're here to give you the knowledge and encouragement so you can thrive. Join us as we dive into all things type 1, real experiences, expert insights, and practical strategies. So personally, I believe that movement is medicine and it's incredibly important for people to look after their bodies. And we're all told that we should be exercising for our health, but sometimes, especially as someone with type 1, I'm concerned about my health because I'm exercising.
It's one of those things you have in your back of your mind constantly. And kind of one of the things, at least in my own experience, that I've had to deal with is when you play long periods of sport, like you have a sport that goes for a long time. And part of that is, as someone with diabetes, it's how do I sustain myself and still be okay by the end of it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like do I sacrifice going, for example, slightly higher because I know that I'm going to lose a lot of levels because I'm exercising, my blood's going to go down.
And then you feel horrible later because you're sitting high.
But it's one of those things that do you do that instead? Or some people will be slightly lower and then they'll do exercise and their blood will go up. So again, it's kind of like one of those difficult things. But I know that in my situation when I was playing volleyball for school, other than having to keep my blood at a steady rate, the other thing I'd be very careful of was my CGM on my arm.
Yeah, knocking it off.
Yeah. So because I played volleyball constantly and you have to just kind of use your arms a lot and you're going to get absolutely pummeled by volleyballs left, right and centre. But one thing I had to be very cautious of as well was I had it on my arm.
They win by just taking off your CGM.
Yeah, win by default.
Yeah.
But it's like that thing of just have to be very careful and cautious. But to sustain yourself for a long period of time, it can be extremely difficult as well.
Yeah.
Although it might work for me to stay high for slightly longer to help myself, it could be for someone else could be completely different.
Yeah.
And it's that awkward thing of like, well, do you go and tell someone that I'm going to be like this? Or do you just go, I'm just going to have, I have diabetes. Here's the thing you need to know and kind of just run with it? Or do you go, this is what I'm doing? Like, how much detail do you give?
So I used to play water polo and I was a swimmer back in school, which involved a lot of high carb intake before, during, after. And I didn't wear a CGM or have an insulin pump at that stage. So taping down those devices was not an issue, thank goodness, because that's a whole thing. Now, mostly I focus on gym, so resistance training. And I always thought it would be impossible for me to gain muscle like normal people, I suppose, but it's not. And I personally go to the gym because increased muscle means improved insulin sensitivity. So that's helped me a lot personally. That's how I personally choose to do it. Other people don't have to, but I like to do it that way. With more traditional resistance training like bicep curls, dumbbell pullovers, you know all about those, Seb.
Yep, do it all the time.
Yeah. With about 10 reps per set, my BGL tends to go up. So you were talking about how sometimes sport makes it go up or down. So with those sorts of training, my BGL goes up. So then I tend not to decrease my insulin basal rate as I would for something like a cardio or something that's a bit more intense. So for high rep workouts like squats or lunges, they sort of work like aerobic exercises like swimming. So I require less insulin then. So that's when I would decrease my insulin basal rate.
We are lucky to have someone today who is knowledgeable about things like exercise and diabetes, and herself is someone with diabetes. So today we have a guest, Meg Lee, who is a paramedic who has an interesting story to tell about her own experience with exercise and diabetes. Hi Meg, how are you going today?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. How are you, Isabel?
Thank you for asking, Seb. I'm doing good.
Okay, so we have you on today to talk about exercise and diabetes. So kind of let's just, I guess, jump straight in there. Can you describe how different types of physical activities can affect your blood glucose levels and how to manage them accordingly?
Yeah, of course. So it wasn't till I was quite older that I actually got told that, say, like strength training versus aerobic training can really change your BGLs. So like strength training for me and a lot of other people, you'll work out for a while and then at 2 o'clock in the morning, you'll have a hypo. So I learned quite early on that when you exercise using a lot of strength, you're going to have delayed hypos. So for me, I ended up just dialing back on my carbohydrates on what I was bolusing when I had no food. Or like say with my footy, for example, I will go super high because my body uses so much energy and then I'll just drop. So it's just having this balancing act. But honestly, I'm 22 and still learning how to better manage it. But it's good to have those little tricks and hints like strength will cause delayed hypo, cardiovascular. Well, for me, it makes me go super high. So it's just all about managing it in that time and place, really.
Yeah. So I guess like on that, how do you manage it? How do you deal with it with different sports? What sort of techniques and things do you do to manage your diabetes?
Yeah, so when I'm playing footy, I actually have my manager hold my pump the whole game. So I tend to want to sit a little bit lower before I start my game, around like 5, because I know during it I will go up really high. So at halftime, I actually connect and make sure I'm having a little bit of insulin and just check those VGLs. And then post-game, I'm just really into making sure I have a carbohydrate afterwards, bolusing for that and just monitoring with my CGM. With things like strength, when I have dinner that night, I usually say I'm having a bowl of pasta and it's 45 grams of carbohydrates. I'll only give myself 30 because I know later on at 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't particularly want to be woken up to an alarming pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all get that. Wake up 2 o'clock.
We've all had those.
So you mentioned a few times in sport where you've needed to have special circumstances surrounding it. Has there been any times where you've kind of felt misunderstood or unsupported as an athlete? And how did you kind of overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so I was actually a state basketball referee and even refereed in New Zealand back in Australia. And the referee uniform has high-waisted pants with a shirt tucked in, and I had a black insulin pump. So I'm just trying to paint a picture here. And people put in their sports bra. I get really sweaty there. I don't want a sweaty pump there. So I used to literally put it in the pocket of my pants. Really discreet, whatever. And there was one time the head of the basketball program started telling other referee development officers to tell me to take my pump off.
Sorry, I don't know how else to react to
Yeah,
that.
you can't
It's
just
like,
go,
okay,
what?
just take it off.
don't really want to stand up.
Just
for
take it off,
myself.
Meg.
Yeah, so I obliged the first time.
Oh, girl, I guess you didn't know better.
And then I spent the next 3 days in bed with ketones, vomiting.
Yeah, there we
So
go.
I was like, not going to happen again. And then 17-year-old me was like, oh my God, Mum, this is such a big deal. So I ended up going to one of the people. I'm like, what's the issue with the pump? And quote unquote, it ruined the lining of the pants and was unaesthetically pleasing with the uniform.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to put it. I mean, it's like...
Yeah. Okay. Did you explain to them afterwards? Did they say anything after you were sick because you had to take it off?
Oh, yeah, when I didn't turn up the next day and they called me where I was like, it's because you made me take the insulin pump off.
Right.
Mum still was pretty involved in my life at 17 and she was like, do you want me to go speak to them? I said, no, because I'm scared I'm not going to get opportunities now.
Oh, bless her. She's like, I'll get mad at them for you.
I felt like I was excluded because I had a pump on.
Yeah.
So from that experience, I wish 17-year-old me had my confidence now, but I learned that I should always speak up if I feel something is not okay and not allow others to dictate my life just because I'm a diabetic.
Yeah.
I literally would just turn around and said, no, if you don't want me on this game, take me off. But I've literally got a pancreas on the outside of my body. Get over it.
Yeah, I agree. What advice would you give to your coaches or teammates who have an athlete with type 1 diabetes to make it more inclusive and to make it easier, I guess, for someone who's managing this chronic illness while also trying to play sport?
I honestly think I always never told coaches unless it became an issue. And I think for coaches, it's to understand that we're all different and a lot of us can read our own bodies. You don't have to take us off all the time. I play 4 quarters of footy now and my coach won't blink twice. But there are some days, back in high school when I was playing basketball, I'd be like, hey, can I just have 30 seconds off? I feel rubbish.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about knowing your athlete on an individual level and having the confidence to say, hey, I need a breather for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be treated differently to everybody else when my body works the exact same way.
But you do have to focus on yourself when you need it as well.
Exactly. So it's just having that confidence to speak up, but also having a really understanding coaching personnel who know you as an individual and know your limits.
Yeah, it can be super hard to speak up though.
Oh, definitely. But I think that's why you get that really good connection with a coach. And once you feel comfortable, you can chat to them about it. You can just be like, hey, look, I've got diabetes. Please don't treat me any differently. But I'll let you know if I need to have a 10-minute timeout.
Would you suggest to people who do have type 1 diabetes to tell their team and their coach straight away that they have diabetes instead of sort of waiting until they're in a situation where it's becomes
too late?
Yeah, like they need to know?
Yeah, so I think for younger people, a lot of the time their parents are going to be at games. So when I was younger, I didn't always feel the need to have to announce it to everybody, especially playing with friends like they all knew I was a diabetic. But as I got older and started going to sport more by myself, I sort of got that confidence at the beginning of the season to go to the coach and go, hey, like just to let you know, I'm a type 1 diabetic. Honestly, no need to stress about it. If anything does happen on the court or field, I'll just let you know and I'll have a breather.
Yeah.
Okay. And Meg, you also talked about how you had this concern in your head that you wouldn't be given opportunities or you won't have this ability to do these sports because you have diabetes in the first place. But is there any kind of words of wisdom you can add that to give to someone who has type 1 diabetes and fears about these things and these opportunities they won't be able to do?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, honestly, my thing is screw them. Honestly, as bad as that sounds, diabetes is not a stopping force. It should never be a setback. It's almost like diabetes has pushed me to do more in my life.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
In life, you're always going to come across people who question your ability.
Just out of like being stubborn, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, I'm the most stubborn person ever. Diabetes or not diabetes, I'm stubborn.
Relatable.
In life, you're going to come across people who question your ability, whether it's professionally, on the street, or in the sporting setting. So just prove others wrong. If someone's sporting world says you can't jump, you jump higher than what they expected.
What changes would you like to see within the sporting community in terms of support, resources and awareness of type 1 diabetes?
I really think there's still quite a bit of stigma. So I've done a bit of work in paediatric nursing. I've heard so many kids say that now I'm a diabetic, I can't do sport. And it's like, well, no. In what universe is that ever true? So I think as a start, platforms such as this podcast is a great way to spread awareness to non-diabetics that diabetics can participate in sport and we are seriously no different to others. I don't know why there's this whole thing about how we have to be treated differently because at the end of the day, my pancreas sits on the outside of my body.
Mine just beeps at me. Yours doesn't.
Yeah. And I also just think educating people, especially coaches, about the signs and symptoms of hypos to help diabetic players, but also not to treat them differently. Say I'm looking a bit spaced out. I'm happy for a coach to be like, hey, Meg, you're looking a little spaced. Do you need a 10-minute?
Just one more question, Meg, just because I've thought of it now.
Yeah.
In sport, do you think it's more obvious for people to notice a hypo or a hyper when you're playing sport?
I feel like it depends on the individual. Highs for me, I can go for miles. Hypos, depending on the day, I can either be a bit confused, a bit dazed, or I'm bawling my eyes out or abusing someone. So I definitely do think hypos are a little more easier to see just because I feel like there's more physical symptoms that someone will show with a hypo.
Yeah.
And like if you're sitting there in tears because you missed a ball, someone can sort of go, checked your levels recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually happened to me before. That exact situation. So I was like, you good? I'm like, I don't actually think so. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Meg.
No worries at all. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to have this platform just to talk about sport, really.
And if you're someone who wants to safely exercise, we've sourced 5 top tips from an exercise physiologist that might assist you. So the first one is to avoid exercise during the peak of your insulin action. So you can do this by planning exercise sessions to be about 3 to 4 hours after a meal or even before breakfast if your blood glucose is in a safe range.
The second thing you could do is match your carb intake to the exercise to energy cost. So if insulin has not been adjusted or is too difficult to adjust.
Number 3, if you can plan your exercise, do it when your insulin on board is low, as exercise usually, it doesn't always, but it usually has an insulin-like effect and will lower your blood sugar.
4, you could check before, during, and after, which is probably the most crucial one you can do. This will help you work out how your body responds to exercise. For example, a check of your blood glucose level before starting may help you to understand if you need extra carbs to fuel the exercise you're about to do.
And number 5, remember that the general safe ranges for your BGL if exercising are between 7 and 15, but you should always check for ketones if your BGL is above 15 and be mindful of correcting for exercise-induced high BGLs because usually later on they will lower about 1 to 3 hours later on.
But always speak to your healthcare professional for more advice and adjusting your insulin regime. But as we always say, diabetes shouldn't stop anyone. We just have to be more careful of it.
And you'll never get it perfect, and that is totally fine. Remember to just keep checking your BGL. I guess that's the key to getting used to how your body works with different types of activities so that you can safely manage your diabetes.
And you can also check out the show notes for a link to the NDSS Diabetes Use Zone Physical Activity session. And there is also a free 30-minute NDSS webinar available that you can watch at any time at your own convenience.
It's free.
It's free.
It's free. Do it.
As we wrap up another episode of Life on the Level, we want to thank you for being part of the supportive community. Your stories, questions, and just being here fuel our mission to offer meaningful support and education to people living with diabetes. Keep the conversation going, stay connected, and remember, together, we're stronger. Don't forget to follow the show to hear more wherever you listen to your podcasts.
This podcast is brought to you by the National Diabetes Services Scheme. The NDSS is an initiative of the Australian Government and is administered by Diabetes Australia.
Diabetes Australia acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional owners and custodians of this country. We pay the utmost respect to them, their cultures, and to their elders, past and present. We extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. Diabetes Australia is committed to improving health outcomes for all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people affected by diabetes and those at risk.
All experiences and opinions described in this podcast are those of each individual guest. Your experience and management may be different.